Listen carefully. Something feels different, doesn't it? There's a quiet tension in the air, a subtle pressure you can't quite explain. While the world slept last night, something private about you was uncovered. Not publicly, not loudly, spiritually, strategically, deliberately. And here's the conflict you need to understand right now. This revelation was never meant for everyone's ears. Too much attention, too many voices, too many eyes could interfere with what has already been set in motion. So let me ask you something that may unsettle you for a moment. What if the very reason you feel watched, exposed, or unusually alert today is because something about your strength, your endurance, or your restraint was noticed when you thought no one was looking? January 3rd is not a random date, it's a transition day. A threshold where certain consequences quietly lock in, where unseen decisions finalize without announcement, where paths subtly close and others begin to open without asking for permission. This is not about fear, it's about awareness, about realizing that silence right now is not weakness, it's protection. So stay with me, listen closely, and don't share this lightly. Before we go any further, take a moment and support this message. Like this video, subscribe if you haven't yet, and comment 99. Spiritually, 99 represents completion before fulfillment, the final moment before crossing into what has been prepared. By doing this, you're aligning yourself with what is being sealed, not with noise, but with intention. Now breathe, stay focused, and keep this quiet. It wasn't random. What was revealed about you last night wasn't the result of some emotional outburst from the heavens. It wasn't a celestial accident or a spiritual glitch in the system. It was intentional. It was observed. It was recognized. There are things about you, quiet, internal, almost invisible things, that have been accumulating weight in the unseen realm. And last night, they crossed a threshold, not because you shouted the loudest, not because you performed for attention, but because you didn't, because you stayed steady when it would have been easier to break, because you remained loyal when loyalty didn't reward you immediately, because you held your peace when you could have destroyed someone with truth. That kind of restraint echoes in dimensions where truth matters more than noise, where endurance isn't just admired, it's recorded. You see, the world you walk through is obsessed with visibility, but the realm that watches you, the one that governs calling, alignment, and divine timing, it's obsessed with substance. It looks at who you are when no one's watching. It weighs what you carry when everyone else is dropping their burdens and running. It marks the moments you chose integrity over retaliation, silence over chaos, faith over panic. And without you realizing it, those private decisions built a spiritual profile that cannot be faked or fabricated. That's what surfaced last night. You didn't qualify for this because of your charisma. You didn't draw attention because of your skills or sparkle. What called the light to shine on you was the fact that you endured without needing applause. You kept showing up. You didn't betray your character. And even when your name wasn't mentioned, your actions spoke louder than anything you could have said. Understand this. Some people climb ladders by noise. Others are lifted by silence. You're part of the latter. The shift that took place wasn't about making you famous. It was about making your identity undeniable to the forces that matter most. That's why it happened in the spirit, not in front of a crowd. The invisible realm doesn't get impressed. It gets convinced. And last night, you convinced it. This wasn't a test you were aware of. You weren't on stage. There were no judges, no scoreboard. But the outcome is very real. You have been flagged, not as a threat, not as a victim, but as someone who can be trusted with more, with truth, with authority, with responsibility. And that's why you might feel different today. Not more powerful, but more aware, as if something inside you knows something shifted. Even if nothing around you has changed yet. That's the paradox of divine recognition. It feels internal before it manifests external. But make no mistake, the atmosphere around you knows, and some people will sense it before you even speak. But don't rush to explain it. Let the silence stretch, because this new weight you carry, it's still forming, and if you try to show it off too soon, it might break before it fully seals. Now, pause for a moment. Let that settle, because in the next few moments you're going to understand why this revelation had to happen in the night, and why it needed to stay hidden from most. Keep listening. Don't look away. It's about to get even more specific. There's a reason it happened at night. And no, it's not just poetic or symbolic. It was strategic. The night is not just a backdrop. It's a veil, a spiritual shield. a filter that separates the pure from the polluted. And last night, while most were sleeping, scrolling, or dreaming, something was revealed about you under that veil. Not because the timing was convenient, but because the atmosphere demanded it. You see, light brings visibility, but it also brings interference, and anything sacred, anything highly targeted for future impact, must be handled carefully in its earliest stages. If what was revealed about you had been exposed during the day, too much noise would have surrounded it. Too many opinions, too many distractions, too much spiritual traffic. The day is crowded, the night is surgical. At night, your conscious defenses are lowered. Your mind isn't performing, your emotions aren't reacting. You're not curating your image or adjusting your tone to match the room. You are raw, unmasked. And in that state, the truth of who you are, beneath all the layers, becomes undeniable to the realm that governs purpose. So yes, it was meant to happen in the silence. The absence of applause was part of the protection. That's why you didn't receive a dream so dramatic it woke you up in panic. That's why no prophetic voice called you out by name in public. And that's why your phone didn't buzz with a confirmation at 3:33 a.m. Because this wasn't for validation, it was for documentation. The night reduces external noise so the internal signal can transmit without distortion. Think of the night as divine soil. Things that are meant to grow long-term must first be planted deep, away from the light, away from watchers, away from potential thieves of energy and attention. And here's the mystery no one talks about. The most irreversible shifts rarely announce themselves. They whisper. They happen in between moments, in stillness, when even you aren't trying. And when they're finished, they don't always leave a sign, just a strange stillness in your chest that won't go away. This is why today may feel quieter than it should. You'd expect a breakthrough to come with noise, but instead you feel a sort of spiritual hush. Don't mistake that silence for absence. It's confirmation. It happened at night because you're not supposed to defend it in the daylight. Not yet. Because if this got out too soon, certain people would try to attach themselves to what was revealed. Others would try to distract you from it. Some would even mock it, not because they understand it, but because they sense how serious it is and don't know how to process that weight. But heaven understood, and heaven moved with precision. Now you walk forward carrying something no one can quite see yet, but you feel it. In how your spirit responds to old things, in how certain desires no longer excite you, in how you feel oddly separated from conversations you used to enjoy. Something shifted, and you don't owe anyone an explanation. Let them wonder, let them guess. Let them feel the change before they hear it from your mouth. Because some things, when protected in silence, gain power, but when spoken too soon, leak their potency into empty spaces. And that's why you must keep this quiet. For now, what's coming next will show you why this had to stay hidden. And when you hear it, you'll understand that some spiritual moves only make sense in hindsight. Stay with me. The next part will reveal exactly what you may feel today, but couldn't put into words yet. And it's going to unlock something you didn't even know was waiting. There's something you may have already started to notice today, but it's so subtle, so quiet, so unexplainable that you might have brushed it off. Don't. Because what you're feeling right now isn't confusion, it's confirmation. A shift that began in silence is beginning to echo through your system, but not in the way people expect, not with lightning bolts or voices from the clouds. It's happening through subtle internal rewiring. You may have woken up today expecting to feel heavy, but instead, there's a strange calm. Not because all your problems disappeared, but because the grip they had on your nervous system loosened. That ache in your chest, faded. That tightness in your stomach, gone. The panic that used to flood your thoughts when you thought about the future, replaced by an unusual steadiness. This is not numbness. This is realignment. It's the emotional residue of something deep within you finally closing. A cycle you didn't even know was still open, sealing itself shut. And because this process didn't come with flashing signs, you might feel tempted to dismiss it. Don't. Because that calm you feel, it's sacred. It's a signal that the storm inside you has passed before the forecast even warned you. You didn't get the memo, because the memo wasn't written for your mind. It was absorbed directly by your spirit. You may also notice something even stranger today. A sense of distance from things that once pulled at you. Old conversations don't spark the same fire. Old names don't carry the same emotional voltage. Old temptations feel dull. And no, you're not broken. You're just no longer a match for what you've outgrown. It's unsettling, isn't it? to not feel angry about what once shattered you, to not crave what once consumed you, to not need to correct someone who misunderstood you. That's not loss, that's liberation. Because here's the truth most never get to hear. Healing doesn't always feel like celebration. Sometimes it feels like stillness, like standing in the same room you once cried in, and realizing you no longer need to explain your presence there. And that's another thing you'll feel today, or perhaps already have. You don't need to explain yourself anymore. You're not hiding. You're not shrinking. You're just finally realizing that your energy is too valuable to waste on trying to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. You no longer chase closure. You carry it. You no longer seek permission. You've outgrown the need for it. Today, January 3rd, is not a normal day for you, even if the outside world treats it like one. Because your inside world has changed, and when your inner world changes, everything else will either rise to meet you or fall away silently. So don't be surprised if you suddenly feel the urge to clear your space, to unsubscribe, to stay off your phone, to pause the need to respond. That's not avoidance, it's alignment. You're being instructed, on a deep level, to protect the upgrade. Because what was revealed about you last night is still settling. And if you make too much noise too soon, it might dissolve into the environment before it takes full form inside you. So stay still, stay sensitive. This is not the time to announce, it's the time to absorb. And right when you think this feeling might just pass like all the others, you'll receive a moment today, a glance, a word, a silence, that confirms this is permanent. But what does this shift actually set in motion behind the scenes? That's what we'll uncover next. And once you understand it, you'll never see today the same way again. Not everyone is meant to know what happened last night. That's not about secrecy for the sake of mystery. It's about spiritual economy. Because every revelation carries a weight, and that weight requires protection before it becomes power. What was revealed about you wasn't just insight, it was an invitation, an elevation, a mantle. And if you speak it too soon, or to the wrong ears, you risk exposing a seed before it can take root. You have to understand, this isn't about fear, it's about discernment. There's a sacred difference between hiding and guarding. And today, more than ever, you're being asked to walk in that difference with maturity. See, not everyone around you is malicious, but many are unprepared. They haven't cultivated the awareness to understand the version of you that's now unfolding. They still relate to your past. They still speak to your survival state. They still expect you to need validation, explanation, or agreement. But what you carry now, it doesn't need consensus, it needs containment. It's tempting, isn't it? To want to share this shift, to let someone in, to ask, do you feel it too? But you must resist that urge, because this is not about being understood. It's about being anchored. Spiritual momentum is fragile in its early stages. It builds silently, and speaking about it prematurely is like opening the oven before the bread has risen. You collapse what was growing, not because it wasn't real, but because it wasn't ready. Let's go deeper. There are people in your orbit who haven't earned access to the version of you that is now emerging. They've only known you in your waiting season. They've only seen the battle, never the breakthrough. And when you begin to walk differently, think differently, respond differently, some won't celebrate it. They'll question it. They'll challenge it. They'll try to reattach you to an identity that expired last night. This is why silence right now is wisdom, not weakness. You're not withholding. You're honoring. You're not being distant. You're being discerning. Because when you speak prematurely, you risk placing sacred things into casual hands. And sacred things were never meant to be shared casually. This is also why you may feel a strange emotional pullback today. Not loneliness, but intentional distance. A need to protect your energy, your time, your space. Honor that instinct. It's part of the upgrade. And let's be clear, silence is not passive, it's strategic. It gives space for the internal to solidify before the external is confronted. It allows you to observe who really sees you, without you having to announce that something has changed. And here's a truth you need to sit with. Not everyone will celebrate your awakening, but even fewer will be able to delay it if you keep it protected. What was revealed about you wasn't just seen by heaven, it was noted by opposing forces as well. And one of the greatest spiritual strategies is distraction. If the enemy can't destroy you, it will try to dilute you. Through conversations, through questions, through the slow erosion of your certainty. But that won't happen. Not this time. Because you're being given clarity not just about who you are, but about who can't go with you in this next version of your purpose. So pause today before you speak. Ask yourself, does this person have the capacity to understand a revelation that wasn't even meant to be public yet? If the answer is no, say nothing. Because the next stage of your transformation demands not just faith, but silence backed by wisdom. And soon, very soon, you'll see why this silence was not just a delay. It was a divine shield preparing the ground for what's coming next. And what's coming will make all of this make perfect sense. Let's keep going. There's one more thing you need to understand. January 3rd is not your reward. It's your alignment point. It's the spiritual equivalent of the moment a compass needle finally stops spinning and locks into true north, quietly, without announcement, but completely unshakable once it does. You may not see fireworks, you may not receive a sudden miracle text, but don't be deceived by the lack of noise, because today, under the surface, something massive has been set in motion. What happened last night wasn't a conclusion, it was a beginning. A hidden door clicked open in the spirit, and today, the hinges are still shifting, adjusting, preparing for you to walk through. But before that happens, you need to understand this clearly. From this day forward, delays are losing their power. You've felt it, haven't you? The patterns, the circling, the almosts that turn into not yets. The answers that came so close but always slipped through your fingers. That wasn't just bad luck. You weren't cursed, you weren't forgotten, you were being prepared, while blockages were being exposed. But as of January 3rd, something has shifted behind the scenes. The spiritual traffic jam that's been holding up your momentum is being cleared. Not by force, but by divine dismissal. There are things that were once allowed to delay you, that no longer have permission to stand in your way. And you may feel that today, not as a burst of speed, but as resistance evaporating. Calls returning without you chasing, people backing off without drama, opportunities finding you, quietly. This is not coincidence, this is clearance, and it doesn't stop there. Because as of today, old cycles are quietly closing. You won't need to make a loud exit, you won't need to burn bridges or slam doors. The patterns that once held you hostage are collapsing on their own. Why? Because they no longer recognize you. The version of you that stayed loyal in silence, that endured in private, that version just expired last night. The old triggers, losing their charge. The familiar chaos, losing its grip. The loop you kept finding yourself in, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, just got overwritten by something higher. And here's where it gets even more powerful. Decisions are becoming clearer, without pressure. You're no longer operating from desperation. From, what if I miss it? From, what will they think? You're stepping into a mental and spiritual clarity that doesn't chase, it chooses. And choosing from clarity is a luxury few people ever get to experience. But you? You're stepping into it today, so if you feel less reactive, less compelled to answer right away, less tied to timelines that used to torment you, that's not laziness, that's divine settling. It's the proof that your foundation has shifted. And here's what matters most right now. The appointment is already scheduled in the unseen. You just haven't been called in yet. So today, move slow, move steady. Don't announce, don't adjust, don't explain, just be. Watch how things shift around you, without effort. Because when heaven sets something in motion, the proof isn't in what you push. It's in what starts to respond to your presence without permission. And that's the final thing you'll see, but only if you stay tuned for the ending. Because what you've felt today, what's been unfolding silently, what started without fanfare, is about to be sealed with a final word that will mark this day forever. Let's finish this. Walk forward, without announcing it. Don't rush to prove what shifted. Don't dilute the sacred with explanations. Don't drag divine timing into conversations it was never meant to be part of. What was revealed about you last night is sealed, not because you demanded it, but because heaven decided it. And now, you're carrying a signature in your spirit that no one can erase. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need applause. You don't need confirmation. Move through this day like someone who knows, but says nothing. Let your presence confuse what used to intimidate you. Let your silence preach louder than your defense. Let your decisions echo what your voice no longer needs to explain. You've entered a realm of quiet authority, where power doesn't beg and alignment doesn't chase. Today you've become something most people never recognize until it's too late. A chosen one in motion, unannounced, unbothered, unstoppable. This isn't about walking above people, it's about walking ahead, with purpose, precision, and peace. Not everything requires a reaction. Not every message deserves a reply. Not every invitation is meant to be accepted, because you are no longer operating from survival. You are operating from divine clarity. And now, the world around you will begin to shift without your effort. Doors will move. Cycles will crumble. People will fall silent without explanation. And all of it will be proof of one thing. You've stepped into the next phase. Without noise, without chaos, without needing a single word. So today, walk differently. Not loudly, not proudly, but undeniably. And if this message has pierced you, if something inside you was activated while you listened, I want you to declare it in the comments right now. I walk in silent authority. Say it, type it, seal it. Because today isn't just a date, it's a threshold, and you've crossed it. And remember this as you go. Some beginnings are loud, but the most powerful ones are silent, and they don't need witnesses, because the results will speak for themselves.